everybody, and welcome back to Sell More Academy, the mastermind for more sales. My name is Ben McGarry, and for the last 2 decades, I've spent nearly every day trying to figure out how to sell more stuff. I've been in the trenches selling my own products and services for years. I've built teams, companies, and systems that sell all the way from Main Street, small town USA to Wall Street. And I've been fortunate enough to coach and consult for countless others worldwide, all in totaling over $150 million in sales. During that time, it has become painfully obvious that the marketplace is and always will be loud and noisy. These days, content creators and social media gurus promote clickbait tactics and short-sighted strategies that often cause more harm than good. It seems like everyone has all the tools at their fingertips, but nobody really knows how to put it all together. And what worked yesterday might not work today, and it'll almost certainly be different again by tomorrow. And that's precisely why I started Sell More Academy, to build a community and a set of resources to help you stay ahead of the curve, to help cut through the noise and make sense of your next best step. At Sell More Academy, we focus on what we consider to be the 5 pillars of modern business success: AI, branding, marketing, sales, and systems. We bring this to you through a powerful combination of a vibrant mastermind community where you can connect with and learn from fellow high achievers and experts in the field, live masterclasses just like this one, where we dive deep into the strategies and tactics for each pillar, covering 1 per day, a curated collection of resources that including the free tools that we're building to help you sell more effectively, and our Sell More directory, connecting you with the pre-vetted providers and solutions that you'll need when it's time to outsource or just find the right tool for the job. Our goal here is to provide you with everything that you need to not only stay informed and competitive, but to sell a lot more stuff. And that brings us to today's masterclass, where we're diving into marketing. Specifically, we're talking about making sure that your marketing actually converts for you. So today we're going to talk about pages. Whether we're talking about a website or a funnel or a landing page, whatever terminology you want to use, we want to make sure that all of your pages are designed to convert. Once we convert more leads, we can sell more stuff. And that's exactly what we're going to work through today with our Convert framework. Over the next 45 minutes or so, I'm going to give you guys a proven system that will take the guesswork out of page design and copywriting. This is about turning more of your visitors into actual customers. Not just some kind of theory. We're going to go through step by step what you need to look for in the framework to ensure that when people land on your page, they don't just leave. So this should work not only immediately for you, we're going to look at some examples of this working in the real world and make sure that we understand how to break down each brand that we look at so that we can apply the same thing to ours. So let's jump right in. As I mentioned, we're going to go through a proven framework here today that is designed to completely take the guesswork out of page design and copywriting. We want to make sure that once we dial in on the page that we're working on, that all the effort, all of the attention that we put toward it pays off for us. And so what we want to do is we want to ultimately focus on this idea of conversion not being an accident. Conversion doesn't just happen. It's not luck. It's not hope. It's not something that comes unexpected for us. Conversion happens when we are intentional and we meet that with connection. So the visitor arrives on our page with some kind of a problem or a goal or something they want to accomplish. Your page should directly connect with that goal. If you can get the intention of the customer and your connection right, well, conversion kind of becomes predictable. But without both of these, it's just kind of a wish. You're hoping that some sales come through. And we've all done this. We've built pages that were beautiful, that had great copy, that sounded witty, that looked funny, that had great videos, whatever the case may be, and they didn't convert. So we basically put a flyer out there and everybody walked by it without ever taking any action. That's not ideal. That doesn't help any of us sell more. So how do we build this connection instantly? Well, first and foremost, the thing that we need to remember, and this is played out in other master classes that we've had, is that the journey here is the customer's journey, not a buying process, not a sales process, not funnels. So the journey here is to focus on what is the customer going through. We need to start thinking about customer language as we move through this. And so that's really where we kind of start things off. The very first piece of our framework is called customer language. Now, we want to make sure that we're using, we hit each and every one of these just as they're all as important as the last one. They don't necessarily go in a specific order. We have them laid out because it's easier to remember. But ultimately, you're constantly checking all of these across all of your pages. That's how we take these 7 pillars and we make high converting pages with them. So the idea is obviously to make sure that we don't miss any of these, because if we do, although our page may still work, it's going to suffer in one way or another. We don't know how much opportunity we lose because we don't have all 7 of these right. But when they are right, conversion almost becomes inevitable. If our targeting is right, if our ads are right, if all of those pieces are right, when they land on our page, there's a really, really, really good chance that people are going to move forward with us. And we're going to break down each and every one of these elements, but let's just run through them real quick. So the convert framework is focusing on customer language, on being outcome driven, on having narrative congruence, on showing proof of the value that we offer, making it easy to take action with us, removal of any obstacles or objections, and then to test and iterate this thing. So this is a living framework, one that your page is not passive where you put it up once and then it lasts forever. That just doesn't happen. What's going to happen is you're going to put it up, you're going to test it, you're going to see the results, and then you're going to iterate and you're going to start the whole process over again. So let's dive straight into, we have a lot to cover here. So let's dive into the customer language and learn a little bit more about that. Now, this is where most pages fall flat. From a copywriting perspective, from a consultant or even a coaching perspective, this is one of the core things that usually sticks out whenever people are asking why won't their page convert, where they say, I need more leads. Well, oftentimes it's because your page fell flat. You're using either corporate jargon or industry buzzwords, words that mean nothing to your customer. That's not how they speak. We want to always speak in their words, not in ours. They describe their problems and their dreams in very specific ways. They use different language than we do. Your job is to listen to them and then use their exact words on your page. So when somebody reads the headline, they think, well, that's exactly what I've been saying. That means you nailed it. You've done a good job now. This creates instant recognition. It builds that goodwill. It moves them through the process with you. So some examples here would be best-in-class solutions. Well, that's corporate jargon nobody cares about. But why wouldn't my customer care about best-in-class? Do you really want them to go look at the whole class of solutions that are there? Or do you want them focused on this actually works? Best-in-class solutions, that's for you and your competitors. It actually works, that's for your customer. Comprehensive methodology sounds like great AI mumbo jumbo that we throw on a page, or we pay consultants thousands of dollars to give us some vague generality, and we end up with comprehensive methodology. That doesn't mean anything to a customer. Stop guessing. That means something to a customer, especially if they feel like they're guessing through whatever problem they're trying to solve. Synergistic approach. What does that mean? It means nothing. But more sales, less stress. Now that is very easy to understand. That is in the language that the customer is speaking. So don't use these exact terms. You find the terminology that your customer is using, and then you write that. There's a great quote from Donald Miller in Building a Story Brand, which if you know me, you know I'm a big, big fan of Story Brand and of Donald Miller individually. And he says, in every line of copy we write, we're either serving the customer's story or descending into confusion. We're either making music or we're making noise. So your question as you move through the C here, the customer language is, are you making music or are you making noise? Are you making it easy for them to understand who you are and what you do? Or are you making it difficult? That's the first piece. You're either connecting with them or you're confusing them. Next, another common mistake, focusing on what you do, features, benefits, whatever. Your customer doesn't actually care about your process. They care about their process. They care about their transformation. They don't care about your process. They don't care where they are now as much as they care where they'll be after they work with you. So the objective here in being outcome driven is not to sell the work, but to sell the result. We've all heard this before. Don't sell the drill, sell the hole. Well, there's some truth to that. Really, it's kind of short-sighted. It's some of that information that sounds good, but it's really not great for us. What's really better is to say sell why they want the whole in the first place. That is really the key terminology that we need to go after here and what we want to put on our page, because the outcome isn't the result. The outcome is what comes from the result. And so let me break that down for a moment. If we're selling a drill and talking about the features, maybe we're talking about the power, we're talking about the type of power. Maybe it's electric, maybe it's cordless, maybe it's handheld, maybe it's such a big drill it takes 5 men to run. Who knows? Maybe it's an oil drill. So there's a lot of different types of drills that are out there. When we start to differentiate them, most people will jump straight to features. Well, we have this and we have this and we have this and we have this. Great. What most content creators and social media gurus are teaching would be to sell the whole, right? Don't sell the drill, don't sell the drill bit, sell the whole. Well, that's the result of the feature, right? And so the benefit, if you will, of the feature is to say, well, it drills great holes for you and it doesn't rip your arms off. Great. The hole will look like this when it's done. But what do I do with that hole, right? Most of us aren't just drilling holes for no reason. There's something that's going to come of that. That is the outcome, right? And so let's just walk through. So I don't need the drill. I don't need the drill bit. I don't actually need a hole in my wall. What I need is to be able to hang a picture so that my wife is happy. So what I'm buying the drill for is so that my wife is happy, so that we get along better for whatever that, particular reason would be. That's the outcome that we're trying to accomplish here. So if somebody is in the state of saying, I'm overwhelmed by manual data entry every day, great. A future state away from the pain and into the benefit would be leave work at 5 p.m. with zero admin work left to do. That simple change takes them from the problem state that they're in, the pain that they're in, into a future state, an after state of doing business with you. So they're able to walk through a transformation, and that's important. So again, don't sell the work. That's not what we're trying to do here. We want to sell the outcome, and we want to do so in their language. Now, they want to know here what problems are going to go away for them. They want to know what will be different. Lead with those type of outcomes. Remember, sell the destination, not the plane ride. That's the objective. Next, narrative congruence. Now, this is kind of big and it may not be super familiar for everyone. So let me break this down. Narrative congruence means that everything on your page tells the same story. When I started Show Me Merchants almost a decade ago, this came almost by accident for us. And if it wasn't for customer feedback, I would have never known that this was so important. When we started, I wrote every single piece of copy, whether that was an email that we had, a website that we were using, a funnel, if it was our application, a text message, every single thing for our entire company went through my hands first. We did that because nobody else considered themselves to be a writer, right? So it was just a necessity thing. The benefit of that, the outcome that came from it for us was that customers, when they got on the phone, or prospects, I guess, when they got on the phone with us or they became a lead and then got on the phone with us, there was a very, very clear handoff from the digital world to being on the phone because the voice remained the same. Even our sales reps were trained with my scripts. And so the voice, the tone, the way that we presented ourselves felt the same regardless of where you entered into our process, regardless of where you landed on the page. It didn't matter if this was an ad or this was the application to get funding. They were going to sound and feel the same. And that, was a fortunate thing we stumbled into, but now you see it everywhere. As soon as there is a disjointed message, something that doesn't quite fit with the rest of the narrative, your visitors get confused. They get stuck. When they get stuck, when they are confused, it will kill conversion. Just think about it. We've all been to websites where we got confused and we just left. Maybe we said, hey, we'll come back to this when we have more time. We never have more time. But chances are we just never got back to it. I can't even imagine how many closed tabs that I kept open for months and then I one day just decided to close hundreds at a time. And so who knows what I've missed because I was confused by that website. And I'm a quick purchaser. If I understand what's there and I need it, I'm just going to buy it, right? I'm not going to sit there and analyze over and over. And so most of those tabs that I had pulled open, I probably was interested in buying from them at some point, and they just confused me and stopped the process. So if, we just talked about focusing on the outcome, now we want to make sure that that outcome is consistently communicated throughout every piece of assets that we have, every one of our assets. Your headline, your body copy, the visuals, the call to action, everything on your page should create a congruent message. Now, that's not saying we repeat ourselves over and over. Please don't do that. But what it does mean is that when we get halfway down the page, we're not talking about a different product. We're not talking about a different outcome. And we're not completely changing the way that we communicate. That doesn't make sense. So we need to, thinking of our client, we need to make sure that all of our pieces reinforce one another and they create a seamless experience. And this helps to build that goodwill and then again guides the visitor kind of effortlessly from where they are to the next step. Not all the way to the sale, not all the way to getting married, but just to the next step. Just going out to get a cup of coffee. That's all we're looking for here. So make sure that when we're going through this, that a couple just easy tips here would be to always read aloud. Always. This is something that came from sales for me, so it was very, very easy. I use this on everything that I do. Sometimes we sit there and we just write so much, and then it sounds great in our head. But as soon as we go to read it to somebody else, we find all the errors. So read aloud, hear your message, because that's how other people are going to read it. That is one really, really easy way to make sure that we have congruence. Another easy way, another quick tip that you can do here would be to use AI to your advantage. Now, AI is not great at thinking. That's not what it's trained to do. It's great at reasoning from the data that it has. Well, that's what you're looking for, is you're looking for reasoning. So You could feed your page in, feed your copy in, whatever it is that you're working on, and ask it if there is narrative congruence. Is there anything that is a pattern interrupt that would stop a person from reading? Is there anywhere that I started communicating in a different way? This is really something that I hold very, 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 very close to the chest sometimes, because it's been such a benefit for me as a coach, as a consultant, and even as an agency owner in the past to get paid. Something as simple as making sure that the narrative aligns from start to finish has such a huge increase on the conversions, not only of the page, but of the sale later, that it's really been a secret weapon for years. And one quick thing, one quick quote that I found that I just thought was perfect for this when it comes to narrative congruence, it's that your copy should always be about relationship building, about solving problems, making life easier, and easing pain. That comes from Roberta Rosenberg. And essentially what she's saying is everything on your page should tell the same story, and that story is not your story, but that story is how you solve their problems. That's the key there. Okay. So next thing that we're going to talk about is proving the claims that we make. All right. So when we're talking about value proof, I can't talk about this without bringing up something that's come up on a few other master classes so far, and that is that William Edwards Deming said, "In God we trust, all others bring data." Think about that for just a moment. Are you asking somebody to trust you? As Sell More Academy, we believe that trust kills deals. And so, is that what you're doing with your page? Are you asking people to just trust that what you're saying is right? Or are you showing proof of the value that you provide? Look, claims are cheap, but proof is absolutely priceless. Your audience is always going to be skeptical. They've heard it before, what you say. If you think that you're writing something completely unique, you probably haven't done enough research into your market yet. So they've heard this kind of stuff before. They're not going to just automatically believe you, and there's no amount of design that's going to convince them to believe you if they don't. So don't just tell them that you're good, show them. We all learned this when we were young, right? Show and tell. Great. Show them. That's the objective. After you've ensured that your narrative is congruent, you've got to come and back this thing up. You got to use testimonials. You got to use hard data. You got to use case studies, and you got to use authority badges. We're trying to pull these levers to make sure that we move people forward with us in a way that they're comfortable, not to trick them, not to convince them. I think everybody knows they should put some type of testimonials on their page, but which testimonials do you put and why? Well, the why is because they're skeptical. They've heard it before. And we're not like the rest of the bunch. We're not just making claims, we're backing it up. Right? So we want to make sure that as we're moving through these and we're checking off our value proof, that each testimonial that we're using, each case study, each piece of data, and each authority lever that we put on goes with that outcome that we're trying to allow the customer to see, allow them to step into. So what I mean by that is if we're offering a widget and the widget helps you, say, get healthier, right? And so it's an app that tracks how far you run each week, and that's going to help you get healthier. Awesome. I probably don't want to put a testimonial on that page about how good of a coder I am. That doesn't make any sense, right? I want to keep it based on the outcome that they care about. So even our value proof must stay congruent. And that's why I said at the beginning, this isn't necessarily a process that you have to step through one by one. You can, of course, but you're always going to loop back. So as I put value proof in, I need to go back and make sure that my narrative is still congruent. And that's going to continue kind of throughout the whole process as we move forward here. So ultimately, the takeaway from this one is very, very simple. Show, don't tell. If you can show them, if you can give them real stuff to look at, to hold in their hand, to print out, whatever the case may be, that result-oriented proof is going to make every one of your claims believable because they are real. And this will move your prospect from thinking that this sounds good, right? Like we've probably heard that a lot. Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, sounds good. We want to move them from, yeah, sounds good to, I believe this is going to work for me. I need to do this now. We want to get them into that state where they're talking about the future. I believe this will work. Now, the next thing that we have to do, if we've made it easy for them to understand the value, is we need to make it really, really easy for them to take action. Now, E is the ease of action. That is where we're at here. And what we're talking about is reducing friction. That's really the ultimate thing. Friction is the enemy of conversion. Every single extra step that we add, every little moment of confusion will cost sales. So if we've shown them that it works, well, now we want to make it simple to get in or to take the next step or to move forward. So the call to action should be impossible to miss and effortless to complete. Those are your two key pieces. Now, you'll hear more, use action-oriented language, don't use passive language, things like that. Absolutely. Those are more tactical CRO things. But the kind of higher level piece that we want to think about when we're thinking about ease of action and particularly call to actions would be to make them impossible to miss and effortless to complete. So if we look at this example here, we can see that the high friction has multiple lines, multiple fields that they need to fill out. Everybody does this when they first put up a page. They say, I want to capture their name, their email, their phone number, their address, what they're interested in, what else they've tried, blah, 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 blah. All of that information. Plenty of studies have been done, and maybe we'll bring some of them up in the mastermind. I'll share some in the mastermind. But there's been plenty of studies that have been done to show that each and every extra line that you add or extra bit that you ask for them lowers your conversion rate. So if we care about conversion rate, then we only want to ask questions that we're going to do something with. Meaning, if you're not going to use their last name in some kind of personalization, don't get it up front. There's no need. If they're going to do business with you, if they're going to buy from you, you'll get that when the time is right. But for the conversion, we just need to open a line of communication with them. We need to go off of this page into somewhere else. Now, most of us use first name in our personalizations in some way, shape, or form. So first name makes sense. Maybe all you need is first name and email. Maybe all you need is email. When it comes to things like newsletters and blogs and things of the sort, I don't even collect name. Just give me the email. I'll send out the email. It doesn't need to be personalized. You signed up for it. You know what you're after. And so just kind of think through that process. This is a trial and error thing. Add more fields, remove fields. But the general rule of thumb to stick to is that if you're not using it right away, then don't collect it. Don't collect data. I mean, there's a lot that goes with that. They're going to wonder what you did with it. You have obligations to protect that data now. So the more that you have, the more that you have to do. So collect the bare minimum and then move on. Minimize the number of fields. Use very clear value-driven button text. And so that's kind of where we were talking earlier about the assertive side. And so the beautiful piece of this is instead of saying learn, now there's times for learn more. Don't get me wrong. If you want somebody to go read something, if you want to set the stage where you want them to be in an educational mindset, a learn more could be fine. But that's not usually the case. Most of us want people to submit something. We want them to subscribe to something. We want them to buy something. And that requires a different bit of copy, a different call to action that's listed. And so in this example, we can see we go from submit, common, average, every day. There's nothing to it. Obviously, logically, I know I'm getting ready to submit my stuff, so it makes sense. Or I switch over to get my free guide. Now that is an action state. That is, they know what to expect after this. And so if they're looking for a free guide, they know how to get it. They may not know how to get it with just a simple submit. Okay, so we want to make sure that that is super clear and as action oriented as we can. Now, the easier, I mean, this seems obvious, but the easier you make it for someone to say yes, the more people will. If you make it difficult, they will say it's difficult. they won't move forward with you. Okay. And so let's assume that we've got, we've really focused on the ease of action. Let's focus on maybe some pieces or some resistance points that might actually stop them from converting. And that's where we jump into removal of obstacles. So every single visitor has some kind of objection, even if they don't voice them. If they don't tell you, they're still present. Your job, your page's job, is to anticipate the obstacles and remove them proactively. Get them out of the way. Don't make them go over the hurdle. Get the hurdle off the track. That's the objective. And so if we've made it easy to act and they're still hesitant, then there's some kind of concern that's not yet handled. It could be price, it could be uncertainty, it could be complexity, it could be multiple other things. In these examples, there are very real ways to remove those obstacles. So if there's a price concern, we could offer payment plans. That means we don't have to change our price, we just change how they pay. That's a pretty good removal of obstacle there. And so now they don't get on the phone and say, well, I don't know if I could afford it. Could you make payments? Here you go. When it comes to uncertainty, remember, our page is doing this for us. When it comes to uncertainty, if they're not quite sure, usually when certainty comes, they're not sure if they would achieve the outcome. That's not always on us. I just want to make that clear. Most of the time when people have resistance about moving forward, it's actually on them. It's whether or not they believe that they will follow through with the process and see their own outcome. If they believe that we are 100% responsible for delivering the outcome that they want, that's a different conversation. But for most people, most purchases, they believe that they have to do something in order to get this outcome, right? And so if we're going to buy a course, it's not only do I think the information's in the course, it's will I use this information in this course to actually go make money, or am I just wasting money, right? And so there's really nothing that person needs to do other than just to help remove that uncertainty for me, right? And so a money back guarantee could work. Daily classes could work. A mastermind community could work. Anything that I'm doing to help remove the uncertainty of the outcome. And the uncertainty is always going to be around the outcome. The final example that we have here is the complexity. And so, particularly what we do, we're talking about systems, we're talking about AI, we're talking about tech, and really, we're talking about some high-level psychology and philosophy whenever we're into the branding and the marketing side of things. So this stuff gets confusing. And it's not that people couldn't understand it, it's that they have other things to understand. They have a business to run. As my good friend Mark always says, there might be somebody there trying to sell them a vacuum cleaner while they're trying to run their business, pay their people, and talk to you. And so understanding or learning a new system, a tool, a guide, reading there's complexity that is baked into everything. And so we are constantly judging whether or not we feel capable of understanding the content that's coming at us. And so being able to essentially negate those feelings of obstacles or objections by providing a solution like a done-for-you setup or easy as 1, 2, 3, that really helps move people past this. It's actually a good example here, and this is something that I believe Donald Miller brought up. Not quite sure which book, but if you go read all of them, you'll find them. So you'll find this somewhere. He talks about Pop-Tarts. And so Pop-Tarts, they're all over the world. They're not healthy. We all know that, but they're a quick kind of breakfast thing. And it's a pretty simple process, right? You open the package, you throw them in the toaster, you eat the Pop-Tart. Simple. But Pop-Tart has those 3 instructions listed on their box. Think about that for a moment. Something that is that widely known and that easy to use and consume removes the obstacle of complexity by listing 3 ways or 3 steps. Open the box, pop in the toaster, eat it. Right? Maybe they say enjoy it, whatever they say. But those are the 3 steps. What are the steps that you can provide up front on your page to help remove the complexity? One last thing I'll say about complexity is please do not bury really all of the removal obstacles. Don't bury all of those in the FAQs. Some of them will naturally make their way to your FAQs, and that's fantastic, but not all of them should be there. Okay, so maybe the money back guarantee, that that uncertainty, that should probably be wherever your pricing is, right? That makes more sense. You could still have an FAQ about it where you go more in depth, but making sure that we have the right things in the right places is going to be important, right? If they're not going to hold on to this idea of an obstacle all the way down your page to get to the checkout, they have it and they're getting ready to bounce right there. So we need to put our removal pieces in the exact spot where we believe there will be obstacles. There are tools that you can use for this. We'll link to a couple of them in the mastermind as well. But the tools for heat mapping, like Crazy Egg, they allow you to see where people hover on your website and then where they leave, what they click and where they leave. And so one of the really common things that that happens is that people run into, usually on the second or third fold, run into a bit of confusion and just leave. And so if you're able to remove those obstacles as they go along instead of waiting to the end, so much better off. And just remember as you go through this, every single mistake or confusion point that they have, it's not because they're stupid. Like, you have to understand that. Doesn't mean that they don't get it. It means that we take full responsibility and our website sucks in one way or another. That's what it comes up to. And I didn't come up with this. This idea comes from other people, but the simple fact is, if they don't convert, we paid money to get them there in one way, shape, or form. We should do absolutely everything we can to help serve them on our page. And so if our answer is they were wrong, we still lose. So take extreme ownership of it, extreme responsibility, and make sure that we handle those. If someone doesn't convert, it is an obstacle that is on our page that is keeping them from moving forward. So just clear that path and you will see higher conversions. Finally, let's focus on that test and iterate phase, how we keep this thing moving. Conversion optimization and kind of what we're going through here would fall under conversion rate optimization, CRO work. I don't mean chief revenue officer, I mean CRO, conversion rate optimization work, which is a common terminology throughout the marketing space. It's not just a one-time project. It's a quite continuous cycle, as I mentioned earlier. So if you've done all the work to build this great page, well, then the launch is really just the beginning of it. The real money is made in optimization. That's how you get this thing cooking. You need to measure what's actually happening. How many people are coming to the page? How many people are scrolling through the page? How many people are clicking on more than one page? How much time are they spending on the page? How many people convert from this? What is our cost per lead? Right? These are metrics that are going to help you to test and figure out what's happening, allow you to learn from that data and then make improvements based on real insights instead of just guesswork. This is really kind of a discipline more than anything. And it's a tough one because we get the page made and we think that we've got this thing and it's just ready to launch. And so we just want to send it out there and then we want to let it be as this like passive thing that we never go back and touch again. But what really separates good pages from great ones is the iteration. It's constantly refining it and working on it. Your web page, whether it's a funnel, a landing page, or a website, particularly the website, it should be changing pretty consistently. The funnel may last a lot longer because that's an offer-based thing. And a landing page is usually for either like a simple opt-in or maybe a lead magnet or something of the sort. But all of those are kind of treated the same when we're talking about testing and iterating. Even though those others, the funnel page and the landing pages are focused more on conversion right now on this page, we still have to iterate and test them. We want to make sure that we're getting the highest returns that we can. And so this really isn't about passive work. This isn't about set it and forget it. This is about constantly being in touch with and serving your audience. And really the best way to do this would be to use the tools that are out there to test, just like I mentioned, with heat mapping, with click tracking, with Google Analytics, things of the sort where you can really get a good idea of what happens when people land on your page. Are they staying? Are they bouncing? Is there a certain area where they bounce? And then you can just make those adjustments and then test it again And if you fix that one, there'll be something else that you can optimize. And so we just end up in this kind of optimization loop where we see something, great. We go back and we fix it and we come back and test it again. And that's just the way that it works. And that's not too different from what would happen with a staff member, a salesperson that was on your team. Every landing page, every funnel is essentially a salesperson that lives on the internet for you anyway. And so just because you trained a salesperson once doesn't mean they know how to handle everything forever and never need a check-in, right? As an owner, you would check in with them and make sure that things are going well. You would probably want some data to back that up. And so instead of thinking as a page as just some design that we have out there or some net that's out there on the internet, instead this is an agent. This is somebody that you have constructed or something that you have constructed to go out there and work for you on your behalf 24/7, 365. So every once in a while you might need to check on it. So it's really by doing this, by making sure that we're constantly adjusting, it's really how we can consistently over time boost our conversion rate. So we may not see as high of a conversion rate in the beginning as we do after our 5th or 6th iteration. Now, let's take a look at just a couple different ones that we can look at here, examples that we can look at. And we've gone through the whole audit here, the scorecard. And so this is something that you can do on your own time. You can do it on your own site just to make sure that you've got everything you need. But we're going to look at HighLevel here. And most people know I run a white label of HighLevel called TaxStack. We use HighLevel as one of our core platforms at Pest AI. Also an affiliate of HighLevel. So if you go into the directory, you'll see all kinds of links where you can get some bonus stuff there. So this is not to sell HighLevel. This is simply to say I'm grabbing it because they gave a very good example. It's really kind of the textbook B2B example, and that's probably why they've grown as fast as they have. So what they're doing is they're speaking directly to the agency owner. They sell a business operating system, which is really all about scale and outcome, right? Where they really shine is the value proof. They show massive stats. They have testimonials. If you go to their page, they have testimonials that are there, video testimonials from real users that would very likely sound like me because as an agency owner, that's what I would have wanted to see is other agency owners talking about the outcomes that they're after, being able to operate their entire business in one place or grow their entire business in one software. If they talked about that and that resonated with me, there's a very good chance that I'm going to move forward. When it comes to removal of obstacles, they use a clear no obligation trial, right? Just test it, see what you think. If you don't like it, fine. Who cares? That's their mentality here. And that happens a lot in software, but it doesn't happen a lot with intention in software. And so with this, it's a complicated system. They are aware of that. They're saying, hey, come test it out, see if it's for you. If it's not, no big deal. You have no obligation to it. So they also use comparison pages. So they're constantly checking against other systems that are in the marketplace, not only for messaging, but for product as well. And so they're constantly testing. They're overwhelming you with numbers. They're removing all the risks that they can from this in order to make sure that you know that if this message resonates with you, you should have extreme confidence that this is the best tool in the market for you. So that's one example, HighLevel. Let's dive into another one here to get off of the tech space. So I pulled up Purple mattresses, and the reason that I've done this is because I believe they're only online. I don't even know if you can buy one in a store. Maybe you can. I don't know the last time I went to a mattress store, but it's a great example of selling the after state, right? And so they're not selling the mattress, although if you go look at their early commercials, they talked about the tech and things like that because they were so uniquely different. But what they're focused on is better sleep. They're focused on less pain, better sleep, better outcome, right? Pure outcome. That's the objective of this mattress. Not to have a mattress, not to sleep on a mattress, but to sleep better, right? And because of that, we could go further down the line. We could have better meetings, better morning workouts, whatever the case is. We could go further down that to pull out more of the outcome. The value proof is overwhelming with, I mean, there's thousands of reviews. This is an international company. Their secret weapon really is that they remove obstacles with it is kind of standard in the mattress industry, but this 100 night free trial. So they're saying, hey, yeah, we're an expensive mattress. Here's a discount, as you can see. Go ahead and take a shot at this. Sleep on it for 100 nights, and if you don't like it, we'll take it back. I mean, that makes it so easy to say yes. I've personally owned Purple mattresses, and it was based on that 100 night trial of this is crazy. I don't know if this is for us, but we could try it and see. That's almost a third of the year. That's insane to think about. Most of us don't want to give anything away for free, and they're like, hey, come try our mattress, and if you don't like it, send it back. So that's how they make it incredibly easy to just say yes. They also run these little tests kind of throughout. They use quizzes, they use little comparison tools, things like that. So customers can test themselves, which is an interesting way of testing. So if they're using those, then Purple knows that they're onto something there. If they're not using them, well, then that they failed the test, right? It's very clear that those are not useful. Okay, let's push onward here, and we're going to look at another one that actually only scores a 6 out of 7. And so this is the Nike website going through the audit scorecard here, our convert framework. And what we can see is that I mean, they're always a masterclass in branding. They are the example that we use. I was actually shocked to see a 6 out of 7 on this. But because their branding is so strong, we could almost give it an extra point, right? We could say branding is its own point here. And they don't show a lot of value proof. They don't show testimonials. There's nobody on their site talking about how great Nike is or how far they ran because of Nike or how great of a tennis game they played. Nobody's talking about that. They don't have to show you those testimonials because for years, their entire brand is the proof. Nike has very rarely ever come out and talked about their product. It's very rare. Even if you go back to their earliest commercials, I think the first one was like a 90-year-old guy running. It was always about the athlete. And that's what Nike stands for, is helping athletes perform better. And so even as we look at this page here, they do say all conditions gear. Well, that's, even though it's talking about them, it's really talking to me, right? I like to go, I don't often run on streets. I like to go run on trails. And so you're going to end up with all kinds of crazy conditions out there. And so this sounds intriguing to me. You must be this wild to ride. What they're talking about me, they're not talking about them. And so they're really drawing me into it. And so even though they got a 6 out of 7, that one is almost kind of an asterisk because for years, for decades, they've been building the proof. And the proof is, as you say, in the pudding, right? We can see all these professional athletes that wear Nike. And I mean, that alone is probably enough. And when we see their commercials, that's exactly what we see as well. We see an athlete being highlighted doing their thing, putting in their work, whatever that may be. So they make it super easy to shop. They, it is an e-commerce site. They nail the outcome by selling the identity of what you'll be. You must be wild to run in all conditions, right? Cool. That's what I'm after. Then that's who I'm going to do business with. They make it really easy to shop. As I mentioned, they test things with different seasonal variations. This website is a newer site. If you switch back, there's a great thing called the Internet Archive, and you could go back and look through different versions of Nike sites and how frequently they change that. So they're constantly testing different seasonal variations, different product variations, different hooks, different colors, all kinds of things. And so this is a super strong page. I'm not here to tell Nike what to do, but understand that even a brand this good could miss elements. Okay, so if you're missing some elements, don't beat yourself up over it. Just understand that there's always room for improvement. Okay, moving on. There are 7 ways to kill your conversion rate, and this is where we'll wrap up. I want you to take all of these with you. Do everything you can to avoid each one of these. So the first one is self-centric copy. And so if you're writing for yourself, not your customer, well, you're only bragging about yourself and nobody wants to hear that. Write for them. Do not use internal jargon. Use their language. I talk about this all the time in one-to-one calls. This is probably one of the most important pieces of all research that gets done. If you skip industry research, if you skip market research, if you skip your business research, and you just focus on your customer, you will sell more. Period. The next thing is a high cognitive load. If they have to work too hard to understand what you provide or to take action, they're going to bounce. Easy way, not going to convert. Easy way to send people away. Just make it too hard for them. The next thing is to ignore the objections. So we either act like they don't exist or we just never address them. If you don't know what the objections are for your industry, you're never going to convert. You're just not consistently. You might get lucky here or there, but you have to know what type of objections that you're going to face, and you need to answer them proactively. You want to do testing, right? And so if the chaos testing means that we try to change too many things at once. We've all heard of split testing, A/B testing, things like that. Just to make that clear, there are big split tests and small split tests. Big split tests are when we change the angle or we change the look overall, right? Small split tests are where we change one thing. We change the headline and test against two different headlines, but everything else stays the same. And so when we're doing this, split testing and A/B testing, this is a scientific process, meaning you must have a control and then one single variable. And so you sit there and test one variable at a time. You test back and forth until you get the headline. You test back and forth once the headline's done until you get the subject or the subheadline, and then onward all the way down. You test just buttons. You test just button colors. And so that's the point of testing, not to do chaos where you're just changing too much at once, because then people don't know what to expect. If you're focused too much on your specs and your features, and even I will say on the benefits, then you're going to miss the outcome and you're going to miss the transformation. And so low-level sales and marketing always focuses on the features. It's kind of the core foundation of what you need to know. And then they usually switch from features to advantages of why me over someone else. And then from advantages, we end up learning to go into benefits. Benefits are what most sales gurus or instructors will teach, but we want to go well past that. That's entry level, that's basic. So what we want to do is go past that because we care about conversion. And so we want to focus on outcomes. We want to focus on transformation. And if we need to, we'll focus on the result side of things, but we never really want to get into features, advantages, or benefits at all. The next is greedy forms. Ask for too much information. They're not going to give it to you. They're going to bounce. That's fine. I can attest to this myself. If there's too many forms, if there's too much for me to give, then the value exchange isn't there. I'm going to bounce out. You better tell me why you need each and every one of these lines, and then you better actually use them. And then the final piece is just flying blind. If you're not tracking your results, if you're not, carefully testing things, if you're not using analytics or heat maps, then how do you know what's working? If you only measure by the final conversion, then you're missing a lot of opportunities along the way to perfect the process and get more conversions. So I want to wrap this up by just saying this is about page conversions. And whether you're starting from scratch and building a page from a white screen, or you're optimizing something that you already have in place, this framework will apply. It is not the same as a copywriting framework that tells you what to write. This is a way of making sure that you convert. This is a way of making sure that the copy that you write and the design that you put together comes together to match the intention of the customer and move them forward. And that's our objective. That's the whole objective, just to have them take one extra step. If there's one other thing that I would say, another bonus way to kill your conversion rate, it's taking too many steps at a time. And so if you're asking somebody to go from, I just met you, to let's get married and have kids, they're going to think you're a weirdo. And we do that all the time with our products. Instead, we just want to take one next step. And that one next step should fit their process, not our sales process. If you use this well, it will make every single page, whether it's a website, a funnel, or a landing page, convert better. It should make your copy convert better. It should make your social ads convert better, and anything else that you put out organically convert at a much higher rate, because we're being intentional. And that's the name of the game. So that's it for today's masterclass. I hope that you'll take this forward. I hope that you'll work on your pages. Bring this into either the comments below this video if you're in the class vault or in the mastermind. Bring this conversation into the marketing channel so we can talk more about this. Happy to help work through different ways, or even take a look at pages for you when the time is right, to make sure that everybody fully grasps this. Because once you do, things change. You go from no leads to an inbox full of leads and maybe even needing help to handle them all because you hit the message right. And the last thing that I'll say is that most people focus most of their time on product market fit. But when we're optimizing pages, that's not what we're looking for. That's actually a VC term. It's a really bad advice to follow unless you're VC backed. The better advice is to focus on making sure that our market message matches. So we're not looking for product market match. We're looking for message market match. And that's how we optimize for conversions. That's all I have for today. Please let me know if you have any comments, questions, or concerns. Bring the conversation in, like I mentioned. Otherwise, have a wonderful day. Go optimize your pages so that you can convert more people and ultimately end up selling more. That's all I have. We'll see you tomorrow.